Welcome to the Denasha Harrison Show here on Intellectual Radio. Thank you for that intro of Sam Trump. And I appreciate all of you who are supporting the radio show, who are supporting the Denasha Harrison Show here on Intellectual Radio. Again, 708-223-8953, where we feed our brains. So I'm looking forward to more support. I'm looking forward to seeing many more of you log in and become subscribers / donate to this platform. And whether it's the Denasha Harrison Show or any other show that the platform is displaying, I ask that you all be a part of that greatness. So thank you for joining me. I'm on a little earlier than usual. Usually I'm here from 8 to 9, but I've been asked to come in a little early, so I'm happy to. So it's going to be a wonderful show. We're just going to talk. Going to talk a lot about a lot. So it was a busy couple of weeks, and I had the opportunity to go to the Cincinnati Jazz Fest. So saw some wonderful acts at the fest. I want to highlight some of the acts that I saw, had a really good time, but I most importantly want to highlight the fact that we were all in one space, in one place for a few days, and it was all peace and love. Nothing huge popped off, jumped off. And I like to be in spaces where we can all gather, get together, and have a wonderful time. So shout out to everybody who put that on. It was a huge event. And there were a lot of events that happened before the Cincinnati Jazz Fest and a lot of events that happened after the Cincinnati Jazz Fest. And I just hear about all good things that are coming out, coming from that event. So I believe October London, Coco Jones, um, Kim, who else? New Edition, In Vogue, Maxwell, Lakeside, which was one of my uh, favorite acts. And I know I'm forgetting somebody. I can't forget the show that Fantasia put on. It was a wonderful, wonderful, very energetic, spiritually filled, powerful show. And of course, Neo did his thing as well. I believe that's about it, but it was a wonderful, wonderful show. And again, what I would like to highlight most importantly about the show is that there was no issues. Normally when we all get together in the space, the news has something to talk about besides the actual event that's going on. I think it's really unfortunate that in most places, most spaces, during most times, most events, we cannot get together and just have a good time. But the Cincinnati Jazz Fest was an exception. Um, I'm glad that the things that came out of there were positive, and that brings me to the Lollapalooza that went down here. Not a lot of issues that went on here in Chicago. Didn't get a chance to go to that. Was still recovering from the Jazz Fest, but it was a wonderful time for all. I heard that the acts were great, that the crowd was great, that the vibe was great. So really happy that we're doing our thing in a positive. There's always a lot of negative things to point to, but hopefully there'll be less and less negative things to point to as we get down the road. So August is a huge, huge month for the summer as a whole. We'll be wrapping up the summer pretty soon. If there's things that you feel like you still got to get out and do, if you feel like you got time to do it before the season changes, just get up, get out, and get it done. So if you're sitting on that time at work, if you got that idea that you're trying to manifest into action to make something happen, just get out and do it, because before you know it, the summer's going to be gone. Before you know it, you're not going to get a chance to to get those things done that you uh, swore that you were going to get done this year. So I'd encourage you to get off the couch, go get some sun, and have a good time. There's a lot of negative things that are going on in our world that can keep us on the couch or keep us in the house or keep us from not getting out and about. But I want to encourage you not to be afraid to live and thrive, no matter where you are, whether it's in Chicago, Cincinnati, wherever it is. Get out and get your thing going. Do what it is that you feel you want to do. And for Cincinnati, to include the festival that happened here in Chicago, although the host cities were, you know, Cincinnati, Chicago. There are people from all over. I had a wonderful time meeting people from all the way from New York to Houston, even some folks out from Cali. They all came and had a wonderful time. So, just my advice to you: get out, have a good time while the summer's still here, because before you know it, it'll be gone. So, with that, I'd like to share a little bit with you about how things have been going on for me, with me. I'm blessed to continue to have uh, breath in my body, movement of my limbs. I get up, and when I get up, I do my mantra. I'm happy that I'm still here on this side, because when you lay down and you go to sleep, it ain't no telling what things are going to be uh, when you go to sleep. You may not wake up. So I'm happy that the universe still sees fit for me to still be on this side. Happy to still be employed. Happy to have a vehicle that can still get me back and forth to where I got to go when I go to work. So happy to stay focused and understand the difference between being focused and needing to get focused. All of us go through the moments where we have lack of focus. All of us go through the moments where we just don't feel like moving forward, moving on. But I encourage you to dig down deep and make the best out of the day, no matter what you have ahead of you. Make the best out of your day. Take the time out to go through that mail that's on your table, to reach out to the people that mean the most to you, to get those things around the area, whether it's in your car, on your car, in your house, fixed. If somebody's dependent on you and you keep telling them, "Hey, I'll be there next week. I'll be there tomorrow. Um, let's get together and do it real soon." But when, I don't know. Take the time to dial that time in, because you never know how long we're going to be with one another. You never know what life is going to bring for you or for those who are around you. So take the time out to dial those times in. If you say you're going to be somewhere, you say you're going to do something for somebody, hey, do your best to get it done. Because at the end of the day, there are people that impact you, and there are people that you impact. And I believe that we'll never know how many people we truly impact around us. We know who we deal with. We know how we deal with the people that we deal with, but you never know how you have truly impacted other people's lives. I believe I said before on the show, several shows back, I had a, and if I didn't, then here's a story. But I had a Marine who was in my unit, a young Marine, and he did very well, fairly well. Kind of came out of his skin, came out of his shell, shall I say, after some time. But very shy, reserved individual, and he did fairly well when he was in the Marine Corps. I'm not sure how long he stayed in, but uh, he hit me up several years later, and he had a testimony that I never, knew he had. He talked about the things that I didn't see during our time together, but it was a very positive recollection of our time. And he's doing well. I believe he's in Washington State, but he's doing very well, uh, teaching, doing something that he loves, very adventurous, very outgoing. And this is the opposite of what his nature was when he was in the Marine Corps. So I've affected him, others affected him in ways that we wouldn't see coming. And that's my point. Sometimes you just do not know how you're going to affect someone down the road. So stay positive about your encounters. When you're on the road, let that road rage rest with somebody else. Let it lie with somebody else. How many people actually feel that they're going to go out to get from one place to another, and that they're going to arrive with no issues, but they find themselves in the middle of an accident, road rage, things of that nature. They're locked up because they pulled a pistol on somebody, or they crashed into somebody and somebody lost their life, and unfortunately they've lost theirs. You know, let's just take a step back. It's a lot of it's enough craziness out there for us to not have to add to it. So let's just take a step back, take a deep breath, and find that middle ground when it comes to all the chaos that you see on your left and on your right. I think that that's very important for you to continue to try to take that path, because I believe that that's the pathway to self empowerment, self development, self assurance, self awareness, and that inner peace that we all seek, but sometimes we don't sit still long enough to actually find that which we seek. I believe that it's important for us to, again, take a step back, take a deep breath, and take a look at the black and white of it. Is it really going to benefit me if I go outside of myself, if I go above and beyond and allow my emotions to take me to a place where I cannot come back from? So just take your time, take a step back, take a look at the whole situation that surrounds you, and see what it is that you can do to move forward, find that middle path. I'd also like to announce that uh, I have made a decision on Monday to explore an opportunity to run for trustee in the village that I live in. So I live in Dalton. As you all know, there's a lot going on in Dalton between the trustees and the mayor, and uh, all kind of accusations, allegations, investigations. Uh, I was at the meeting on Monday, and if you look up Dalton Village meeting, you'll see a lot of clickbait comes up. You got 2 minutes over here, 4 minutes over there. You got a lot of people putting their twist on things and chiming in. But the actual meeting was, I believe, 3 hours, 38 minutes, and 50 something seconds. So it was a very, very long meeting. And there's a lot of things that you can't hear when you're watching the meeting. So again, if you look at Dalton Village meeting, the meeting will come up. And if you see on the page the length of time, the one that's over 3 hours should be the majority of the meeting. But again, you cannot hear what's going on in the audience. You can only hear those who have the mics. This was my first in person meeting. I've tried to get into previous meetings just to educate myself on how they do the process and take a look at how things are beyond, looking at it online or looking at it on television. And I will tell you that it's much, much different being there in person than actually looking at it online or listening to somebody else's commentary about what's going on as they narrate the different things that they decide to cherry pick and choose, or for the sake of time, they have to narrow it down to try to give an explanation to what they feel is going on. But if you are not there, uh, it's definitely a different experience. I've I was asked from many people who were there, uh, "Are you sure you want to get into this race? Are you sure this is something that you want to be a part of, that you want to do? Why would you want to get in the middle of this when you got all this drama going on? You got all this clickbait going on. Why would you want to get involved?" And I let the people know that I'm Team Dalton because I live there, and I don't have uh, any any courts or prisons or any facts in front of me to demonize or convict the trustees or the mayor or anybody in her administration. It's not that I don't have an opinion, but because I'm new into the village, and because I need to find my way towards being a part of that process for the people, it's worth it. I've been all around the world doing a whole lot of things for a whole lot of different countries, whether inside the military when I served in the Marine Corps for over 20 years or outside the military. And I'm originally from the west side of Chicago. So I'm from the Austin area. And I decided to put roots down in the south suburbs because there's a certain peace that you will find in the south suburbs that you won't find on the west side of Chicago or other places in Chicago. So I made that decision to put down roots in that space. I believe that the people of Dalton deserve proper representation. I believe that the people of Dalton deserve to have people who have their best interests in mind when it comes to being a legislative body. That does not mean that the mayor does not or the trustees do not have those intentions in mind as well. But when you have so much going on when it comes to the legislative body, you have a lot of people that's frustrated because they either have half truths or no truth at all, or they have their own opinions about things based on their personal relationships. You got to ask yourself, who's really paying attention to the black and white concerning the legislation? Who's paying attention to the ordinances? Who's paying attention to what's really best for the village? And I believe that it's important for those who care about, their neighbors, those who care about where they live, that they should get involved. Not necessarily the level of, being an elected official. You don't have to run for mayor or trustee or uh, any other office. You don't even have to come to the meetings, which I recommend you do, not just for entertainment purposes, but to actually know what's going on. But I recommend that you get involved because it's where you live, and it might not affect you directly regarding what's going on with the legislative processes, but it will eventually affect you indirectly if you do not put yourself in a position to have a say about how you feel about the rules, regulations, ordinances, the different things that are going on in your neighborhood. It makes a difference. It's a huge impact when you have a place um, that's informing you or what's going on in the area. So I threw my hat in the ring. I said that I'm going to run for trustee. I can change my mind if I want to. I don't believe I will. I'm going to continue to push forward and meet as many people as I can and talk as much as I can about what I would like to see for the city of Dalton without getting caught up in the argument and the clickbait and the allegedness and the accusations about what's going on. If there's a legal process that's happening concerning the actions of the administration or the actions of the employees or trustees, if there's legal processes going on, allow those legal processes to play out. I had people tell me that if you was with such and such a party or if you was such and such a person, I'm not going to vote for you. It's like, but you don't even know what I stand for. Well, if you, no matter what you stand for, if you aligning yourself with this person or that person, you're not getting my vote. Well, I understand how passionate people are about what's going on in Dalton, but I would say this: before you count someone out, hear them out. Before you say that you're not going to do something, try to find out if it's for the good of the actual village. Like if you really for your neighborhood, if you really for your community, then I believe that you owe it to yourself and you owe it to others to figure a pathway forward that's better for the community, no matter what the arguments are or no matter what the clickbait says. So I'm excited about it. Uh, I haven't been uh, as excited about something um, as I am about putting my hat in the ring to move forward concerning political processes. And I do understand that it's it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not so much as political. Um, it's not so much as me having political aspirations as it is being put in a position to do something for the people, doing things for the people. So I like to serve. I like to help where I can. I like to offer whatever I learned about being, on this planet. If there's a place for my knowledge to fit in a situation that can help somebody, then that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm hoping that I have a successful campaign. And my definition of a successful campaign is not only a campaign that wins, but a campaign that informs. So at the end of the day, of course, I want to win the seat. At the end of the day, of course, I want to be a part of the legislative process when it when it has to do with what the trustees are responsible for doing concerning, legislation, ordinances, things of that nature. Of course I do. But at the end of the day, if I can be a part of a process to allow for people to hear where I stand, what's on my mind concerning what I think is good for the city of Dalton, then that's what I'm going to do. So to me, that's a win. So moving forward, my goal is to be in the park on the third Wednesday of the month. It's called Wind Down Wednesdays. Now, on Wind Down Wednesdays, basically, the Village of Dalton has um, they have barbecues, and there's a band that plays in the park while people just come and wind down. You can bring your food, you can bring your alcohol in the park, and you could sit, kick back, relax while you listen to some really good music. And it's a social call. It's the time for people in the village and outside the village to get a chance to know each other. So I definitely look forward to being out there on that third Wednesday to speak with people. If they have questions for me, they're welcome to ask whatever questions they want to ask. So it's going to be more of a Q&A for me. You want to know why I'm running? Come to the park. And if you don't live in Dalton, of course, you can't vote for the village um, officials, but you can still come and find out um, what the views are when it comes to the people, or the people that's trying to run for office, or the people that's concerned about their village. In Dalton, we're part of something called Thornton Township, and I believe in Thornton Township there's 17 other villages that are attached to that township, and I believe that that's the biggest township in the state of Illinois. So very, very important place to live, very exciting place to live. So I'm just going to call out, a couple of places. Um, South Holland, for example, is a part of that township. Um, I believe that that is one of the closest townships to Dalton. Riverdale is um, another township that's within that township coalition, so to speak. So even if you don't live in the village of Dalton, still come out. Wind Down Wednesdays. It's ran by the Park District in Dalton. If you go to the Dalton Village website, they'll have it there. They'll have a time. I believe it starts at 6:30. I'm going to try to be there between 5 and 7 before coming back here on that Wednesday. So check it out. But again, I'm excited. I'm excited to get the word out. I'm excited to meet people. And again, I believe that that's a win. Not so much as gaining the seat, which I want to do, but if I don't gain the seat, that's okay because it gives me an opportunity to find out what's on the people's minds in Dalton and to share with them what's on my mind. And I have a lot of ideas to share, and I'm sure based on the meetings that you've seen and the meeting that I witnessed, a lot of people have a lot of things to share as well. Few shows back, I talked about undercoverness, undercover brothers and sisters. And what I meant by that was people sitting on knowledge that should be shared with others. And I believe that I'm in a prime position to be an example of sharing with people the things that I feel can help move a village forward and just contribute. Not so much as moving the village forward from where they are, because that's a collective, that takes a team, but just to share what I know that people can apply to the processes to make things better. So that's one of the biggest highlights of my week. It was a long, long Monday, but it was a very, very educational Monday. I learned some things that I couldn't have learned sitting on the couch. So again, if you are sitting on the couch about some things that you want to get out there and do, just do it because time is always winding up. As we're speaking, time is winding up. You don't get that time back. The shoulda, coulda, wouldas, it's a waste of your time. So if you get the opportunity, go ahead and reach in that book. where you was writing the to-do list, or dust off that information where you had a whole bunch of people that you used to deal with. And for some reason, although y'all were good to each other, you just lost contact. Hey, look those people up. Look those people up that were good to you, good for you, good with you. Re engage with those people so that they can enrich your life. So just want to share that with you. The Intellectual Radio platform is a wonderful one. We got the DNC coming up. That's very important. The Democratic National Committee is going to be here in Chicago. And there's a lot of people that will be here in the city. If you're going to be a part of that movement in August, uh, please reach out to me. There's a lot of different things that will be going on in the city. A lot of activities. A lot of people will be converging on the United Center off of Chicago Avenue. It's pretty much downtown. When you come to the city, if you've never been before, if you're coming to the Democratic National Committee, don't think that where you are is just what Chicago's about. Wonderful space, wonderful places. You got the Riverwalk that's a little bit north of there that I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy. Millennium Park, Grant Park, all that's actually within walking distance of where the DNC is going to be. However, um, that's not just what Chicago's about. If you go a little bit north, into Fulton Market area, which is northwest, a lot of wonderful things to do. Brownsville area down south is always um, a wonderful experience. It tells you a lot about the character of Chicago, where a lot of people that look like me started in Chicago. And then you always got the West Side, which again, I believe is the best side, although it has its issues. There's a lot of things that you can learn about the city if you're going to be here for the committee. So just keep your head on the swivel when you're downtown. A lot of people know that you're coming in for what you're coming in for. And so a lot of people will think that it's okay to conduct themselves like they do in their city, wherever you're from. And, if you're streetwise where you are, just be streetwise when you come to Chicago, especially because there's going to be a lot of predators out looking for those who they know are not from the city. That's not to deter you, it's just to remind you to keep your head on the swivel when you're out and about. Because just because you're downtown doesn't mean that you're in a safer place than if you was in some of the hardest areas of the city. Because the predators go where they feel um, they can come up at, and they're definitely going to be in the downtown area. So this is the Danasha Harrison Show here on Intellectual Radio. I am glad to be on this platform with you again. I'm going to take a quick musical break. And when I come back, we're just going to keep the conversation going. And you can feel free to call 708-223-8953 if you want. Call. If not, then just sit back and listen to the show. So I'll talk to you in a minute. Be right back.
Can't look in the eyes of my brother without shedding a tear for my brother. I really wanna try for my brother, 'cause I truly do feel for my brother. And since they lied to my brother, I'll teach the truth to my brother. And I'll do for my brother, to call it truth with my brother. Truth, peace, love, brotherly, trust, coexist. We can live in harmony. Yeah.
See, if he can't get love, he'll find a supplement. Express hurt outwardly or self-inflict cowardly. Everyone wants to belong. Everybody
Welcome back
deserves
to the
another.
Danasha Harrison Show here on Intellectual Radio, where we feed our brains. 708-223-8953. That's the number to us here right now. I actually had a question during the break about the duties of a trustee. So the question that was asked to me is, hey, what actually does a trustee do? The best definition that I can give is that they are the checks and balances when it comes to governing a village. For example, When it comes to the legislative processes, writing that legislation, voting on that legislation, when it comes to the finances of that village, the trustees is that balance. So in the village of Dalton, you have 7 trustees, and those 7 trustees are responsible for being, um, again, that balance between themselves to include the administration. So, when, for example, when the mayor puts something forward, it requires a vote. And if the vote passes, then you go ahead and put that into to ordinances that apply to the village. So if you think about the Congress and you think about the Senate, so think about it as both houses agreeing to pass legislation, and then they being signed off by the executive branch. So the actual mayor of Dalton would be as the executive branch, like the president is. The trustees would be like Congress and the Senate. So they have to get together, agree on legislation, allow legislation to pass, and then it gets signed off on. So for the most part, that is what the trustee does. And if you think about the aldermans here in Chicago, or you think about commissioners in places like DC, they represent wards. Same thing in Dalton, they represent different areas. And so you do represent the people throughout the village. So that's the best way that I can explain that. And again, I have a lot to learn when it comes to the different ordinances that were put in place for a long ago. Um, I believe Dalton is um, 1893 is when Dalton came around. I could be wrong about my dates, but I believe it is 1893. So there's some things that's been on the books for a long time, and there's a lot of learning that I need to do, and I'm looking forward to doing it. So I hope that answered your question about what a trustee does. I said earlier in the show that we're in August. One of the wonderful things about August, besides the DNC coming to Chicago and it being summertime, uh, it's winding up, but still a lot of cool things to do to get outside. Weather's great, and for Chicago, the weather starts to go from hot to warm. So that whole spring fall for the area is a wonderful, wonderful time here, weather-wise. But one of the biggest things that I've appreciated about August was when I participated in Fred Hampton Day. Fred Hampton Day is actually coming up, and Freemall Radio is on while this show is on. So if you look at intellectualradio.com and you see my show, you also have another show with Fred Hampton Jr. called Freemall Radio. And guess what? If you go over to that show and you want to listen to what's going on with that show, I'm not mad at you because I'm sitting here on my show, but I can kind of hear them out there. And it's a very dynamic show all the time. So Fred Hampton Day is coming up. And so let me share with you what happened last year for Fred Hampton Day. Last year, they dedicated his birthplace as a historical landmark, which was huge, in Maywood, Illinois. Um, we went to Cook County Prison, and we spoke outside of death row, where um, where we had members of family who actually had um, people that were on death row, so they had a chance to speak their piece. And we also went to the location where Fred Hampton was shot and killed in Chicago, and we went to a mural as well that's located within the area. So it was a lot of moving around. It was a lot of logistics, and we also we started at a school in Maywood and we ended, I believe, in the same place. So it was a very, very full day. You got people coming from Oakland, California this year. They came from Oakland last year. And as you know, that's the birth of the place of the Black Panthers in California. So from New York to Oakland to Texas, Florida last year, we had people from all over Ohio, Wisconsin, St. Louis. People from all over came last year. And this year, I'm sure that we'll have probably triple the people because it was very successful last year. We learned some things about the how to's, the logistics. And let me back up. It started at a school and it ended, I want to say, at the park or at the house with the dedication of the birthplace of Fred Hampton Sr. being a national or historical landmark. So, very wonderful event, very wonderful time. And I'm looking forward to that this year. Before Fred Hampton Jr. gets out of here, I like to sit with him and coordinate. He's so busy moving back and forth doing what he does, but working with him last year was a wonderful experience for Chicago, for the people who are part of the Black Panther Cubs, who used to be a part of the Black Panther Party movement, and who still got love for the Black Panther Party movement and everything that they stood for when it came to all the positive things that they were doing in the cities that they represented. So, again, that's a very, very wonderful day that's going to go down this month. When I get more information about Fred Hampton Day, I'll make sure that I come on here and pass it to you. Or you can just go ahead and go to Freedom All Radio right now. He's talking about it right now, and that'll get you that information. But if you want to stay with me, I appreciate it and I understand, and I'll get that information for you so that you can converge on the city of Chicago and be a part of that. Again, it was a very, very long day, but it was a very wonderful day. It was so much positive information that was shared and so much history that was shared. Mother came out and talked about the day or the night that Fred Hampton Sr. was shot and killed by Chicago police officers, and how she was there and how she felt the bullets going past her body. And she was actually pregnant with Fred Hampton Jr. at the time. And she talked about when the Chicago police officer put the gun to her belly and talked about killing her son, who was actually in the studio right down the hall from me. So it was a very um, it was a very interesting, humbling historical lesson that I got when I was a part of that day. I didn't think I was going to get all that I got from being a part of that day. I just thought it was going to be a couple of hot dogs and a couple of speeches and a couple of pictures and folks going to roll out, but it was a very wonderful experience. I believe there's a movie called Judah and the Black Messiah that was out. So I just want you all to know that the Hampton family actually signed off on that movie. They were a part of the processes that happened in that movie. And so they sanctioned that movie to go forward as it did. So while they advised the things that went down on that movie, the actual producer or director of the movie was there last year. And I believe he'll be there again this year. But just to hear them talk about the history. So, when you're looking at a movie, you're thinking that the movie would take um, would take some parts of the story. They would take privileges and kind of exacerbate things, or tell a lot of untruths about certain things. But from what I understand, that movie was spot on about the events that were happening when they were happening in Chicago. So when that movie depicted what it did about what happened with Fred Hampton Sr., from speaking with the family, they said that it was pretty spot on and that they were very happy with how the movie went. So again, Fred Hampton Day is coming up, and the next time I come on, I'll give you as much information as I can. Last year, what we did, there was a flyer that went out, and they talked about um, the different stages of the day. Like, hey, the bus is going to be here at this location between this time and that time. And when you get on the bus, it's going to leave at this time and arrive at this place. So the logistics were very, very specific last year, and I'm sure they'll be more specific this year. And again, there's some lessons learned, right? But it was a wonderful day, wonderful experience. So I'm really looking forward to it. Intellectual Radio has been a wonderful place for me. I'm glad that I'm here on the iHeartRadio affiliate, and I'm glad that I'm at a place where I can speak my mind and speak what's going on in the community. I'm glad that you can call in and speak your mind as well. If you ever want to call in, that's 708-223-8953. Feel free to do so, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. The reason that I don't have a guest tonight is because I just wanted to talk to you. There was a couple of guests that came on a while back. We had a man, Stogie Strong, talking about sticks. I want to get him back in the studio because I believe that there was so much that he could have expounded on concerning the whole cigar game. And sometimes an hour is just not enough. But wonderful experience with that because number one, cigars are my passion among some other things. And to actually speak with someone else who has the same type of passion and is actually in the business of that is very fun and very interesting. I'm sure if you look on your Facebook feed, you'll see all these different cigar groups and things of that nature where they out and about traveling, doing their thing. One of the most important shows out of the other important shows that I've had is when Nurse Erica came on and spoke about her experience with her daughter uh, after her daughter gave birth, how she lost her daughter, and how we should pay more attention to women's health. And I always talk about how your health is your wealth. And the reason that I'm highlighting these stories is because you might find yourself in some of these stories. You might find some of your experiences that relate to what we're talking about here. So those are the experiences that I bring to the show. But if you have something that you feel like you want to see and you haven't seen yet, again, give us a call, 708-223-8953, or reach out to me on social media and say, hey, Dinasha, you want to talk about this? I think this is interesting. Or, hey, I want to share my story about what happened to me during this time or what have you. So another important story that I think um, affected everybody was when there was talk about what was going on with the Des Plaines River, how you have people um, being found, floating in the river. I think 6 or 7 people within a month's time frame were pulled out of that river, and we talked about that a few weeks ago. Very important show because we want to have make sure that people are aware of what's going on in their communities, what's going on around them, and how it affects them. So uh, I did a piece with Nurse Erica and a doctor. I have to look the name up of the doctor, but we actually did a piece outside of the studio. I'm still waiting to present that to you and to social media. I want to present that piece that we did because I believe it was a very, very important piece. So we're hoping that it gets out of the editing process because it was done a while back. And I'm hoping that we can bring that information to you because it was very important information worthy of an audience like this. And I'm hoping that we can actually have Nurse Erica, maybe even the doctor in the studio to talk about the same things that we talked about when we actually shot the show. So I'm telling you all of this because number one, I believe it's important. Number two, I believe that when you're informed about things that concern you or some different experiences that you had, that's something that can enrich your experiences moving forward. No, whatever they are, from smoking cigars to being informed about what's going on in the community. I believe that it can be enriching if that's your thing. So with that, again, I thank Intellectual Radio a lot. A lot of people feel like maybe I'm just kind of filling time to thank Intellectual Radio. That's not the case. I really want you all to dive into these platforms or this platform and these shows that are on this platform. I found out that some of the icons around Chicago have actually stopped through Intellectual Radio and wonderful experience. I found out that some of the icons that are outside of the city have stopped through Intellectual Radio, right? And I like to talk about the current person that's um, taking all the heat for the city because he's sitting in that seat. I like to shout out Brandon Johnson, all right? Second black mayor of Chicago, Illinois. I like to shout him out because he stopped through here on Intellectual Radio and he's had those conversations. And I want you all to understand that when you see a politician during the campaign season, when they're trying to get into office, it's not that they don't want to come back and speak to the people. They just have a huge, huge agenda and they have a huge schedule where it's really hard for them to break away and come back and speak with the people who helped them get into office. But I got love and respect for not only Brandon Johnson, but all the other aldermen that are around here trying to make things happen for the people. But that's just one of the many examples of, some of the people who've stopped through here. Key and Peele has stopped through here. If comedy's your thing, they've stopped through here on Intellectual Radio. All right, Twister, everybody who knows anything about hip hop, R&B, rap, whatever you want to call it, he stopped through Intellectual Radio more than once. So the reason that I'm pointing these different artists out is because I want you all to understand the impact that this platform has had and continues to have and will continue to have, not only on the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois, but outside. So if you can support intellectual radio, how do you support intellectual radio? Hey, pick a show. All right, this is the Denasha Harrison show. You got Free 'em All right down the hall. He's doing his thing. You got Elevated Vibes that's usually on during this time. You have uh, Crazy Talk with Kim, you know, and which is actually a very interesting show. Uh, so you have a lot of shows going on. So I would encourage you to do more than listen, do more than support by listening, and reach out, donate or subscribe, get other people to subscribe, run the shows back, share the shows. It does a lot for us when you do that. If your financial situation, or if you want to keep your money in your pocket, I understand that, but you can do so much more with your time. You can do so much more with your time by sharing what you're seeing, sharing what you're liking. It really makes a difference. Might not make so much of a difference to you, or you might not see the impact, but again, it makes a difference. So just wanted to share that with you as well. Keep doing what you're doing by supporting and bring somebody else in to support as well. And if you got some ideas, I'm all for constructive criticism. I promise you. I just got cons- I just got constructive criticism from my mother the other day about some things that she saw, not on the show, but somewhere else. But she didn't like it. So I'm not going to tell you what it is. She's probably watching. If she's not, she will be watching. If she's not watching, she'll be watching probably later on. But I'm all for constructive criticism. So if you feel that there's a something that can be done different on the show, hey, let me know. I'm all for constructive criticism. I might not apply it, but I'm gonna hear you out. I'm gonna listen. But seriously, at the end of the day, if it's best for the show, if it's best for the viewers, then we're gonna go ahead and do our best to implement it. We're gonna try. I had somebody tell me that they wanted me to curse more on the show. Well, I'm not gonna curse on the show unless you paying for the fines that I'll get for cursing on the show. So if you want to hear me curse on the show, then you might either have another platform for me to be on the show where you want to hear all that, or B, help me pay the fines that will be, on the show. So, and then you risk the chance of me not being on this platform anymore. But yeah, I thought that was interesting when somebody said, "Man, I know you, I know you want to cuss sometimes. You be saying this and that, man. I do, but I like what's in my pocket too." And you know what? I was really close a couple of shows, just letting it rip, letting it go. So hopefully we can still stay in this lane, and I can still continue to express myself without using those expletives. But it's an opinion. It's how people feel, and I respect that and I appreciate that. So keep bringing the different ideas to the show. I'm looking forward to continuing to do intellectual radio. I believe, let's see. So next Wednesday I'll be out. I won't be around, but the following Wednesday, I'll be back on the show. Any questions or concerns that you may have that you don't want to talk on live about, put in the comment section. You can even call. If there's something that you don't like, call 708-223-8953. If you feel like telling on me because you feel like I should have did something different, you got our engineers. They'll jot it down, and they have no issues letting us know. Hey, you know what? Such a call. They ain't want to leave their name, but this is what they said about your show. Hey, I'm all for it. So I appreciate the support and I appreciate the love. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to actually come before you and speak my mind, speak what's going on, and I'm gonna continue to do so. So, with that, this is the Denasha Harrison Show. You might see the Denasha Harrison Podcast. It's the same thing. The Denasha Harrison Show, the Denasha Harrison Podcast. So if you trying to look for a show and you put the Denasha Harrison Podcast and it doesn't come up, do the Denasha Harrison Show. So those words are interchanged, not an issue. You can see me on YouTube. You can see me on IntellectualRadio.com first and foremost. But if you can't find me, because I don't know, you should be able to find me on IntellectualRadio.com. But I'm also on YouTube and I'm on other social platforms as well. So thank you for listening. Again, I'm going to leave this number with you 223 708 223 8953. This is the Denasha Harrison Show on Intellectual Radio. If the levee don't break and the creek don't rise, I'll see you in 2 Wednesdays from today. So be safe, be good to each other. Talk to you soon.
Can't look in the eyes of my brother without shedding a tear for my brother. I really wanna try for my brother, 'cause I truly